Welcome to the channel where this week I do something for me and add some reinforcements to my Drukhari. There's no real overarching theme to this video, it's just I had a game coming up and I wanted these Hellions to be part of it. So I guess if I had to call it anything, it could be, could I complete 5 Drukhari Hellions in the time it takes to watch Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End?
Alright then.
Not sure that'll get through to most people. Naturally, when trying to do anything quickly, the airbrush is your best friend when it's not broken, and luckily today it wasn't. I started by airbrushing them purple straight over the grey plastic and then going straight in with a dark blue, specifically dark sea green from Vallejo. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm going to be right up front. My Drukhari scheme is a direct rip from Squidmar Miniatures and Lucas on there, who did a lovely Synthwave Drukhari scheme, so I just nicked that and adapted it to be a bit faster for my needs. I'll link their video in the description, and I'm using very similar colours, so for the actual masterclass, go see them. Simply, I kept using the airbrush until I couldn't anymore, mixing up lighter and lighter blues until I had the gradient I wanted. The longest part of this process was just waiting for them to dry in between, and in that time all I did was watch Captain Jack Sparrow be himself, which was exciting. For this method, I'm mostly using a zenithal spray, that's spraying from above essentially where the light would be, so the purple lies in the deeper shadows, and if you look at the model from the top down it looks almost completely light blue. I completely ignored the underside of the hoverboards because no one's ever going to look at those, they're on flying stands or bases or whatever, so why waste time painting that part? Specifically to get them game ready, that is. I don't recommend leaving the underside of every model with nothing. Next I went to some brushwork and mixed up my final shade of dark blue and light blue before I went to my final highlights, and just blended this over the top of the areas I wanted to be brightest. As you can see, it's not incredibly neat, but it is fairly quick, so absolutely worthwhile doing if you just want a nice tabletop standard. I find this style of painting really satisfying because you're just using big sweeps of the brush and covering large areas. I don't know why, but it also is just nice to watch. Funny. That stage complete, it's in with a direct edge highlight of my brightest blue. As you'll be able to see throughout most of this, I was neat in some areas and less so in others. It really didn't matter, so down the arm here just using the side of the brush, whereas on the board I'm being a bit more careful. Ultimately, you're going to be viewing these miniatures from quite far away, so the brighter the contrast, the better they'll look. Up close, not so good, but not many people are picking up my models and shoving them in their faces. They're very spiky and it's dangerous. Once this stage is done, my main highlights are complete and I can move on to all the other details. But once again, as always, here's Bram. Next up is all the metallic parts and the skin. I'm using Bugman's Glow to cover both, one for a nice copper shade and one for a nice skin shade. Easy. Again, I'm leaving a lot of purple on the underside and in the recesses because it just adds to the effect. It also makes the metallics super quick, and I usually get really bored painting metallics because they're just metal. The main problem with the skin is that it's everywhere on these models. These guys dress pretty skimpily, so I had to find all the short shorts, the rips, the cut off tops. I don't know what they're called. But yeah, this stage took a little while and easily took longer than the rest of the airbrushing and highlighting stage. As the skin covered a good chunk of the model and I couldn't use the airbrush for it, I decided to get it out the way early and highlight it up with Cadian Flesh Tone and Kislev Flesh. I'm not most pleased with how this skin came out. It's a little bit glossy for some reason. Maybe I didn't mix my paints very well, but in true Games Workshop fashion, they were just drying out anyway. I need to switch to dropper bottles, clearly. But you know, for tabletop standard it works, and I can always go back and fix it. There is nothing wrong with, after playing my game, going back and touching up those models. Touching up as in repair. I know they're Drukhari, but this channel's not like that. I jumped back into the metallics quickly with some off-white ivory style colours just to add in that nice bright highlight. I'm essentially doing a very cheaty version of non-metallic metal, very stylised, very cartoony, and it's really quick to do, so I recommend you try out on at least a couple of your minis, particularly ones that are really cartoony like these. One final highlight with the brightest highlight I can find, and this pistol at least is looking pretty good. I use the same bright highlight, in this case Screaming Skull from Citadel, to block in the eyes. Accent colours really help your model pop, so I went straight in with a red here, because otherwise the whole thing will just look like a blue-purple mess, and I want it to look like a blue-purple, red and green mess. So starting with the red, I went in with some Evil Sun Scarlet to add these weird jagged etchings at the front, and also make all my Drukhari redheads, because I don't know. Yep, no idea, just looks good. The next stage of all the reds is to add the highlight colour, in this case Wild Rider Red. Got it right that time. Just to enhance that colour and make it pop. I also used it to highlight the hair. The final highlight is Citadel's Lugganoth Orange, which is a really bright edge highlight paint, and it just helps the red look really sharp and also gives some nice reflective light to the hair. Doing some boring bits quickly, I covered all the straps and stuff they have strapped to them in Rhinox hide brown, and then made a quick highlight with a mix of Mournfang brown and Rhinox hide. Keep it simple, keep it quick, no one's looking at the leather straps, at least not on these models anyway. The final step of this is to add one more accent colour and do the weapon blades, which I'm going to do a nice glowing green. I'm starting this process by base coating in the darkest blue base coat that I used through my airbrush at the beginning of the video. I'm mixing that up in stages with a really bright Vallejo paint, Livery Green, and I'm going to make some rough, sketchy highlights across the blades like it's slightly shiny. I mix up another shade with these paints, getting brighter as I go and focusing more towards the centre of those initial sketchy highlights I made. I'm generally focusing these highlights on the opposite sides of the blade. So if I do the top left of a curve, I'll then do the bottom right of the inverse curve, so it looks like they're reflecting different angles of light as it goes down the blade. I'm by no means an expert or even necessarily good at this, but the effect always works out in the end, so just be patient, take your time, and the next step will really help it pop. The final step is to take pure livery green and edge highlight. This is the neatest edge highlight I will have done throughout this entire painting process, and it's just to make it look super sharp and hope those colours really pop. The final brightest, sharpest highlight always feels the most satisfying to me, like you've ever done a blend or non-metallic metal and you add this sharp highlight in at the end. It just seems to tie it all together in a way that the blends never could. I don't know, it's a weird effect. I'm just so pleased it makes pretty shoddy blending in this case look good. The final thing to do is take the bases and paint them with a purple paint. These are clear, so this took far too many coats, so we're going to skip that part nice and quickly and go straight into the bit where I was scribing in lines with white paint. This creates a nice neon effect, and then I take a fluorescent magenta and glaze that over the top to make them look pink. Or magenta, I said magenta, magenta isn't pink, but it's similar though. I found a bit of tidy up, and the last thing to do is stick these guys to their bases with a little dot of super glue. So that's my Drukhari complete. Did I complete it in the time it takes to watch Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End? Kinda. I think I was in the credits, or maybe just about to start another movie, so close enough. I've been Sam, see you next time.